Hello and welcome to the next episode of our Let's Keep the Conversation Going series. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Penny Desborough, who is, I love this title, Penny, Vice President of Customer Compliance and Culture at leading digital mortgage broker Habito. And Penny has undoubtedly enjoyed some brilliant highs over the years whilst operating in our sector. And I'm sure most of these occurred whilst we're working alongside successful entrepreneur and well-known industry stalwart Ying Tan. I'm sure we'll talk about a number of those highs as we reflect over recent years. But Penny is also someone who is incredibly passionate about our subject matter today around mental health and well-being and the importance on creating world-class culture. If you want to hear some best practice ideas or understand how to build a strong can-do business, and have some fun along the way, then stay tuned for the next 30-40 minutes or so and listen to some of the pearls of wisdom that I'm sure Penny has got. But probably the starting point, Penny, so obviously welcome and thanks for taking part.
Thank
Just the
you.
starting point with each of these conversations is really just a bit of a run through of the whistle stop tour of the career. So I mentioned obviously Ying there and the successes, but maybe if we go back to the very beginning and just do that whistle stop tour from when you entered the financial services marketplace to where we are now.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, thank you for having me first of all. I'll try and keep it brief. But yeah, stop me if I'm rambling. But yeah, I left school at 18. I'm a twin. And my twin sister, she's a huge person in my life. But we'd been compared, which is probably quite natural, I guess, with twins, our entire life. And on that basis, at 18, I was adamant I wasn't going to university while she was on her way. So I went straight into work and became an underwriter for an insurance company, which it was a lot of fun, and it gave me a good taste of what I wanted to do longer term in the industry, as in financial services. But then I left that and worked for a small building society, as it was then, in Epsom. And after I joined there, I kind of saw fairly early on in my career there that there wasn't going to be progression for me, and that was what I was wanting, really. Like I actually, if I'm being completely honest, used to think that I would be the next Richard Branson. But I just didn't have any of his brilliant ideas. But I knew that he hadn't gone to university, and I was, that really inspired me. So so I quickly learned at that building society that there wasn't really many places for me to go, and so I stuck it out for 18 months, and then started my job search. At the time, so I was 19 at this point. I'd gone into my first, I suppose, serious relationship with a chap that didn't actually like me working in Epsom anyway, because that was where I went to school and I'd grown up. So whenever I went into the town centre, I'd always bump into people. And he just didn't like that. So I had to look for jobs outside of that area. And that is when I stumbled across the buy-to-let business, which is now known as Dynamo. And I went in at a very entry level, doing mortgage administration. I was processing mortgage applications and things like that. And I realized very quickly, working with Ying, that there was something special about that business. And they were forward thinking, they were dynamic, it was entrepreneurial, and it was an exciting journey to be a part of. And so I really put my roots down there, and just thought, this is where I want to be, this is where I need to be, and this is where I can see where I can really progress, and make a career, make the right name for myself as well. Obviously that was 2000. What year was that? It was 2007 when I joined. Obviously, market crash happened, and the business, although it had grown to sort of 30 strong in a very relatively quick time, it had to downsize. And during that period, up until 2009, I think we were as small as sort of 4 to 5 people, myself, Ying, and then a couple of others. And that was really where I kind of just came into my own, because all of a sudden we didn't have somebody that was able to sort out sort of like the accounts, the compliance, any marketing, HR, or anything like that. So that's when it all came to me. Essentially, I was Ying's right-hand person from a very early stage in the business, and so I just took it all on, took it all in my stride, and flourished. And I was really fortunate. I know that a lot of people lost their jobs, and it was a very stressful time, but I was very fortunate during that period to be able to carry on and to take on what I did, and really start to, I don't know what the term is, but yeah, just build upon what I'd already wanted to do. So when we did start to grow again, which was, I guess, 2012 was when we started to see the change in the market. We started to be able to grow as a company. And that was when sort of departments then started to fall under me. And I moved into management role as the years progressed. And in the end, I ended up managing sort of the marketing, sort of finance, payroll, accounts, the operations, HR, compliance, office management, partnerships, performance management. All of those departments fell under me, because as much as people would say, "Oh, this isn't possible," I'd done the job, so I knew that what was possible. It was so much fun. We had a great time. I look back on those days and with so much happiness and positivity, and I really enjoyed the time that I had. And I feel very blessed to have been able to have achieved what I did at Dynamo, and working alongside Ying, who's just been a great support for me mentally over the years. He's dealt with a lot. And he's stuck by me and championed me, and I'll always be very grateful for everything that he's done for me, and ultimately my family as well. So yeah.
Amazing. And obviously you've landed at Habito now. Obviously, yeah, I know Ying has invested there and leading that business. And how are you enjoying things now?
Yeah, so I left Dynamo June 2021. Took a little bit of time out, spent some time at home with the children. My youngest wasn't even one when I left Dynamo. My oldest was 10 at the time. And I realized that I was not made to be a stay-at-home mum. That's just not in my makeup. So I kind of tapped on Ying's, knocked on his door and just said, what's next? Obviously the knowledge bank opportunity came up, and so I worked really closely with Nicola and Craig over there, and they've got a fantastic business, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with them, and they're a great team, and the whole team's great, and I love what they're doing. And then obviously Habito presented itself sort of earlier this year, and joining that it's been great fun. There is so much to do there, but it's so much let me just think about what I'm saying. So much to do there, and the team are fantastic. Working with some of the best that I've ever come across. And I feel, again, very grateful that I'm able to embark on another exciting journey with, an awesome company with an amazing brand, and I'm grateful that again I get to work with Ying. So yeah, it's good. It's really good.
And I mentioned culture and the importance of culture in the opening, and I know you've used the word fun a few times as we've listened to your journey there. Um, how important is culture as you've gone through the journey, and what is it you've maybe strived to achieve?
I mean, ultimately, culture is central to any business. It's essential to how the business runs, how people feel on a day-to-day basis. You don't want people in the company to have that Sunday night dread that, many of us have had, or many of us do have. And for me, I went into work wanting to always enjoy what I did prior to what my bank balance looked at the end of each month. We spend so much time at work, a majority of our waking life, really, and we don't get to choose the people we work with, but it does play a massive part in how we feel every day, and relationships are key. I guess we're social creatures, so it's important that we feel we fit irrespective of background and who you are. So creating a culture that is fun, is inclusive, and is respectful, helps the business thrive. And ultimately, without the people in your business, there's not really a business, is there? So yeah, that's what I would say on that. Achieving what do I want to achieve is excellence, every time. I know you're not always going to get it right, but again, that's okay. It's about learning, it's about making sure that people know that mistakes can be made, there's room for them to grow, and they don't fear that there's a blame culture there, and unless obviously there's a blatant misconduct issue. But it's all important. And now there is so much emphasis on ensuring that not only is our physical health okay, but our mental health is okay as well. That, you know, we have to recognize that. And, you know, it's difficult to tell people to leave everything at the door, as it were, when they come in to the office, or, you know, they go to work, or, you know, when they go home. You know, our lives inside and outside work, you know, they impact us immensely, and you know, it's important that employers do recognize that.
Where's that passion, that personal passion you've got around mental health and well-being? Where do you think that's come from?
A combination of things, to be honest with you. So my sister, she is, make sure I get this right. She's an accredited, let me just check yeah, she's an accredited mental health first aid trainer. That's right, for by MHFA England. So, you know, we speak regularly, and you know, she's had her own challenges. She's very open about her own challenges with mental health. Uh, kind of 18 months after the breakdown of her marriage. For myself, you know, I'll be completely honest. Prior to having my own mental health, poor mental health, I didn't understand it, and I didn't fully appreciate what people went through. And then after the birth of my daughter in 2018, I was hit with postnatal depression. Well, not hit with, but you know, you know, I had postnatal depression, and it changed a lot for me. Not just for me personally, but just also my outlook on it. And I didn't want anybody to ever feel that there wasn't somewhere for them to come to be able to chat with somebody, for us to have something, you know, as a business, for to be able to give people the support that they would need during times of crisis, or whatever it may be. So, you know, I'm fortunate that I do have my sister there to lean on, and she's, like I said to you at the start, she's a big person in my life, and I'm forever grateful that I've got her. But yeah, you know, that its passion really comes from my own poor mental health, and the impact that, you know, it had on me and my family, really.
How did you get through that? So obviously your sister, because it's a twin sister, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so your sister obviously played a part. Were there any, I don't know, maybe coping mechanisms, or were there any, I suppose, useful things you found that help you get through, that might be yeah, particularly insightful for, yeah, for people who are listening today?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, ultimately, you know, it's my coping mechanisms change. It doesn't, just because it worked for me 3 years ago, it doesn't mean it's going to work for me now. But I guess my constant has been the take up of netball, so sport, which I guess we know helps release endorphins. You know, it changes your focus, and that's been huge for me. So sort of May 2019 is when I picked up netball. So my daughter was about 15 months old. And in actual fact, it was just the lady who came in and decorated my house. Just, she looked at me and she said, "You look like a netballer." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I used to play." And she said, "Oh, why don't you come down?" And I haven't looked back. So I play twice a week when I can, and I now run a league, which, you know, it's great just to be a great distraction. During the time of my postnatal depression, I had a lot of talking therapy. The NHS during the time that I was really struggling were absolutely outstanding. I went in for my 6-week checkup, and the next day I was in seeing psychiatrist. I saw psychologist, and I was fully supported. And you know, I cannot fault the NHS for what they did for me during that time. Um, they you know, they were brilliant. So they were good, and if I could hug my psychiatrist, I would do, because she saw me through a very dark period of my life. My husband is, you know, it could not be more laid back if you tried, and actually that works perfectly for us. You know, I've always been the one that's a bit more, what's the polite way of saying it about myself? um well, he's
Yeah,
laid
maybe
back and
enthusiastic.
basically I'm the opposite. And so, you know, he just grounds me. And you know, he was so patient with me during that time. Um,
Mm.
and there was nothing that, whatever I did, it didn't phase him. You know, whatever I said, it didn't phase him. He just knew that it wasn't me. And I was really like, I wouldn't say fortunate, because that's not right, but he's just that constant calming personality that, you know, I need in my life, you know, and I continue to need that. There is no two ways about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah, I had talking therapy, and once I went back to work, you know, so I was out for sort of 8-9 months. I continued to just carry on with that talking therapy, but it got to a point where um I didn't feel like I was getting anything more out of it, so I had to sort of find alternatives. Unfortunately, though, during that period, and you know, I then lost my grandmother, which then triggered a huge relapse, which was very difficult because when I was working at the time, you know, I thought outside of Ying, my closest allies were supportive, but I did have one colleague who made it actually a lot harder for me, and told me that essentially that Ying didn't give a toss about me, and that was really difficult because that just that played in my head, and I just thought, what am I doing? Like I'm in a job where I'm being told that my boss doesn't care about me. I've lost a grandmother who, okay, I appreciate she was 95, and you know, she'd had a great life, and I was very lucky to have been able to had her for, you know, that long, because, you know, unfortunately I lost my dad when he was 61, so not everybody gets to make old bones, and you know, it's an honor to get there. But it impacted me, and you know, I was actually signed off for 3 months. My GP signed me off for 3 months, which, you know, when I've looked back, you know, Ying could not have been more supportive of that time off. So it made me realize that actually I can't listen to everyone around me as well, and that I had to just focus on the people that have been constant in my life and that had championed and supported me for long periods of time. So, and during that time, netball got me through. I literally was there 4 days a week, playing netball. The children got me through. I had more talking therapy. I feel like my life might have just been a bit of a roller coaster, because then shortly after that, I found out I was pregnant with my
Wow.
child. And at the time, I should also say that I was on medication as well. So as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I came off my medication, and I actually had hypnotherapy, and that was amazing. Hypnotherapy was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, that got me through my pregnancy. Um,
Right.
and I've now not been on medication for about 18 months. And now it's my netball, and I've actually taken up reading again. So I've taken up reading again. The joys, of the
Sorry. Sorry, yeah, my lighting had gone off, so
oh, that's fun.
Penny was staring into a black abyss then. Sorry about that. And look, I think, you know, really, really grateful for you sharing that, Penny. And I think, you know, what we're seeing with the conversation series here is we're seeing people, you know, really step up, and you know, successful people who've, you know, had some challenging times, but you know what, I've got through those times, and are super successful now. We're going to be super successful in the future, and it's not just hearing their stories which are inspiring me. It's actually hearing the support that is actually now starting to take place from the leadership teams and the exec teams that actually are surrounding these, yeah, these individuals. And I think, you know, hearing stories from you know, from senior leaders, and observing how the support infrastructure has been there, you know, hopefully it just encourages more people to, again, not suffer in silence, and just encourage the conversation, because that's what it's all about, really. It's just making sure whoever that conversation needs to be with, there's just an opportunity at a time when you know, you're in those dark moments. There's a conversation that takes place. It's, you know, that's what's crucial. And I think I'm interested in trying to understand maybe a little bit around. So your personal journey there is, yeah, is really interesting. And as I say, thank you for that. What about the people around you? So as you're building that business, and you know, from that 2012 day, what about observing the telltale signs of the people around you, and you know, what maybe what things were there that you could actually pick up on, and having picked up that maybe somebody was struggling, what kind of support did you look to, yeah, to offer and put in place?
I think so going back to those days, you know, we had you know, EAP, which was fantastic service actually, so the employee assistance program, and as well as many of the team had been trained as mental health first aid champions. So we were really trying to build on that. Obviously then COVID struck, and you know, there'd been a lot more talk about it in a couple of years prior to COVID, and then, you know, so it became a lot harder to spot those telltale signs with remote working. And I do think that it's important to acknowledge that, because you don't get to see everyone on a day-to-day basis, and cameras can mask so much. A 30-minute meeting with someone might be long enough for them to be able to mask how they're feeling, and you know, they might be then off crying for the rest of the day. And especially during that lockdown period where people weren't able to leave their homes, people were isolated for so long. You know, there was definitely some challenges there, but for me it was always about getting to know my team, and that's still very much the process now, you know, understanding them, what makes them tick, you know, even small things and how they might respond in a meeting, you know, one word answers when they're usually quite, you know, articulate, and, you know, how they're coping with their workload, how they're responding to their colleagues, their customers, their peers. You know, that's, I think, when you can start to really pick up on those telltale signs. And it's not about just asking, you know, how are you once and them saying, yeah, I'm fine. It's by saying, but you know, how are you really? And I know we talk about that twice, and people say, oh, you know, it's funny to ask it twice, but you know, you don't have to say it twice in the same way. But you can just say, you know, I did notice that, you know, you were a little bit off in the meeting. Is everything okay? And that's just opening up that conversation for them to feel comfortable with that. And you know, I've always wanted it to be sort of a two-way street. I was never sort of oh, you know, this is my way, blah blah blah. It was always a two-way street. And you know, I was very open with the team. You know, some of them knew some of my challenges. They didn't know all of it, but you know, I wanted them to know that it hits everyone and anyone at any point. There is nothing that is going to trigger, you know, poor mental health. It just, there is no control, which is a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and then I would have, because of your own experience, that ability to empathise and show that care would have come naturally. And what kind of support were you rolling out? How did you, so if somebody was opening up, what did it look like, that support?
So sometimes it's just about having the chat and understanding what's causing them to struggle, and offering them support, whether it's just an ear, and that can be whether that's daily or weekly, or you know, on their terms, knowing that, you know, and I've always been very very open with, you know, if you need me, WhatsApp me. I'm very happy to speak to people outside if they're struggling. EAP, obviously, as I said to you before, you know, if their workload is too much, you know, just offering them support, which you could in the workplace is hugely important. And you know, at times just giving somebody an emergency day off, you know, if they're not coping for the day, just say, look, why don't you take a day's leave and see how you feel. And you know, it's just, rather than, you know, some firms, you know, there's a we want 5 days, etc etc, just offering some of that flexibility, because there isn't a one size fits all approach, and it's always going to depend upon the context, the situation and what's happening. But you know, I think the first thing is always to make sure that you're having an open and honest chat with them, and that they feel comfortable enough to talk to you. So that comes through from management training as well, is, you know, how to support your team. So yeah, so you know, I hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, no, it does. And what about, was the approach any different uh, between maybe the guys you had on the advising side to the exec team around you? Was the approach pretty much the same kind of approach, with that conversation and just that unraveling the skin off the onion almost, wasn't it? Just digging deeper. Was the approach the same across all levels?
Yeah, I think, you know, you know, it's all dependent upon you know, the situation, and you know, offering flexibility, you know, regardless of who you are, and what your position is. Everyone has different ways and means of coping, and it's about helping people find what supports them and helps them cope with their poor mental health. And you know, everyone's needs are different, so it's not always going to be the same as, you know, Joe over there and Fred over there, but it's about recognizing that, and trying to cater, I suppose, if that's the right word, so that, you know, people feel that they've heard, but I don't think it's exactly the same, because not everybody's mental health is the same, if that makes sense.
It's a really, I think it's a brilliant answer. Yeah, it's bespoke, it's different with everybody, isn't it? And therefore, I think that caring, and there's probably a consistency of approach in terms of the that caring, empathetic nature is always there, but the actual support could go in different directions based on the person that's in front of you. And I think what we've tried to do with the charter, Penny, is we're not trying to profess to be experts in any way, but what we are trying to do, we've got two simple objectives. One is to provide that pathway gateway to people who do need support. So there is expert help at hand. And the other thing is, any of those business principals out there who would like to have some kind of mental health and wellbeing framework, we've just got assets and materials that they can lift and drop into their own environments. And it might just be something as simple like you touched on there around how you're feeling. Again, we've got some brilliant signatories now, and as we share these best practices, what was evident from one of the signatories was, as part of their one-to-one, they ask, it's a simple question, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, but it just unravels the onion that a little bit further from that, how you're feeling. So again, I just think providing tips and hints is crucial. Absolutely free. And then what about employers and maybe prejudices that still exist? How much progress do you think we've made, and do you think there is still prejudices out there with some employers?
I mean, unfortunately, there is a stigma attached, and that stems from history, and it does still exist, even in society today. I guess when it comes to business and we have made huge steps, not just as an industry, but as a collective across dare I say it, the world. But there are definitely improved steps, of course. We have improved. There is going to be still a lot to do, and we're only really scratching the surface. And having these conversations, taking the mental health agenda seriously through ensuring that companies have policies and procedures that have people at the heart of the business, and embed it into the culture, ensuring that we're all living those procedures and policies. It's just ensuring that we're modeling those healthy work behaviors, and making sure that we're championing it. And we talk so much about, or not talk so much, we acknowledge that if somebody breaks their leg, we always say, oh, I'm sorry to hear you've broken your leg, are you okay? And there isn't sort of like a stigma attached with that. But if somebody has mentioned that they've got poor mental health, people are like, oh, that's quite open, isn't it? Why I don't want to know about that. And why not? What's the difference? And we are definitely making strides towards improving that, and getting tackling that stigma is probably the better phrase. But yeah, there is still a lot to be done, and things like the Mortgage Industry Mental Health Charter is definitely helping to move the needle. So what you guys are doing is brilliant, and not just in this industry, but hopefully other industries are either doing this already or will look to adopt something similar.
I think if I observe other sectors, and I've been in this funding sector and our financial services sector for probably 30 years, and I've looked at other industries where maybe I've got pals working, and I do think it's been on other sectors' agenda, and they've done more for mental health and well-being than we have historically. But I do think we're catching up, and we do a survey each year, and with the charter, and what's clear is now that of the respondents, 58% of them indicated that their company did offer some sort of framework for mental health and well-being, and that's up from, I think, 52% the previous year and 42% the previous year beyond. From that, so we are seeing some strides, but it still means that 42% of the respondents felt that there was nothing being offered, which is still a travesty. And I think there was about 12% who weren't sure, which is even worse. So if you're working for your company, you're not sure whether it's there or not. It seems like it's even more of a challenge. But that fun focus that you've had historically. Look, I know we come into work and there's a purpose, there's an objective, and we've got tasks to complete. But that fun environment that you created. I mean, I'm interested in just exploring that a little bit. and the kind of things you've done in the past just to get that energy and get that that fun in the workplace. I mean, what kind of things have you done and have really worked effectively for the groups?
Yeah, I mean, acknowledging success, I think so important. And, it doesn't matter what sort of level that is. Just sending somebody a congratulations on a great month, just something minor like that can really encourage people. And I think it is really important to acknowledge that. And, at Dynamo, and in Habito, annual awards to recognise the successes, over the course of a year. People love that as well.
I think drinking and socializing and um, recognizing individual and collective success. I absolutely agree. One of the best things we do all year, and the things the staff look forward to most at Crystal, is the awards we do every February, and it's everybody gets the chance to put the posh frocks on and the best disco suits on, and it's a brilliant evening, and it's an evening that I look forward to every year. And I apologise if we might have pinched that from you guys in previous years, but it's just great to celebrate success together and have fun together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so important. And that, it's a way of thanking staff as well, thanking your employees for all that they've done, and how hard they've worked over the course of the year. Because, we do work in an industry that's high pressured. There's, we never know what might happen some days. I don't think anyone could have fully predicted what happened last September with Liz Truss. And, I'm sure everybody, or most people, were in a state of panic, to be honest with you. And so it's rewarding everybody that contributes, because everybody contributes. It doesn't matter where you sit. Everybody contributes. And I think it's was it NASA? I think the somebody asked the cleaner what he did, and he said, I put people on the moon, because he's there doing his job. So the person that, he reports into can do their job. So the person that it's that constant. And, collectively, everybody should be working towards the same objective. So, that comes from the top. That really does. The culture does start at the top. And, leaders do need to ensure that they are embodying and modeling the culture behaviors that they want. And, I was very fortunate that I saw and I witnessed that, and was able to, dare I say it, tag onto the coattails of Ying, who started that culture. Those small thank yous, which go a huge way into somebody's career. And and you look back and you just think, God, just that small thank you, just the impact that it had on me, on anybody, it was huge. So you've got that. Then going out to represent the business, something that, some people say, oh, it's work, but actually when you're out representing your business, you puff your chest out and think, oh, I'm here representing, Habito, or wherever it is. And just think, wow, like, and I love, and we have many, but I love our awards dues that we hold in the industry. Getting that frock, like getting a frock on, like you said, your posh frock, or your tuxedo, or whatever it might be. It feels, I still feel to this day honored to be at those dues. And sometimes I feel like an imposter that I shouldn't be there, because I just think there are so many more people worthy of being at those dues. But I wear my heart on my sleeve. And everyone always like says, oh, you're always so excited to be at these events. And I am, I genuinely am.
Yeah.
And everyone else.
I'm sure you. And I'm sure you're there, yeah, absolutely deservedly. So I'm sure you're an imposter. Just conscious of probably couple of final questions before I summarise, and just want to return back to I suppose, maybe some aspects of the coping mechanisms, because I think I want to try and see if there's any other hints and tips we can get out there for people who maybe are struggling. And obviously, the counselling and the talking was particularly useful for yourself back in back at the time that you have your own challenges. But what tips and advice would you give to people who maybe are struggling a little bit at the moment and not in the place they'd like to be, in terms of just getting through it and getting to the other side?
Yeah, I guess, there isn't a one size that fits all. And like I said, what worked for me back in 2018, 19, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for me now. So it's about finding what works for you. So I guess basics, if you can start with that. So, physical health is sleep patterns. There is definite correlation with ensuring that you get enough sleep. Exercise, increasing the endorphins, the happy hormone. um
Yeah.
Nourishment, what you're putting in your body, eating well, drinking well, and also looking after your boundaries, taking regular breaks, taking your lunch hour, not overworking. And I think they're sort of some of the fundamentals of looking after your mental health. But talking about it, which I know is easier said than done. Not everyone is happy to be open about it, but if you write it down, so journaling, that can help. Just getting it out, like getting it from the inside out. Can really help, because it's no longer just whirring around in your head. And that is something that I have used before, not just when I'm struggling with poor mental health, but also, when you've got your list of things to do, and you just think, right, I must remember to do that, and I must remember to do that, and then all of a sudden you write it down, and then you know that you're not going to forget, because 9 times out of 10, if I don't write it down, I generally forget. just how it is. And then, there's other things, if you're not comfortable journaling, there's support forums that you can write on, that are run by charities, or you get web chat with instant conversation. And then there is another one, is a text one, which I guess is possibly more convenient these days, because so much of our lives are we do so much of it on our phones. And there's the text service called Shout. So there's that, and then of, like, dare I say it, the obvious ones, the Samaritans. But the main thing for me is just, please don't suffer alone. People
Yeah.
would much rather hear about your problems than hearing something worse.
Think I mean, that thanks for that text indicator there on shout, because I've not heard of that. So that's certainly something we'll pick up on. And again, I think interesting, returning to the survey, um, we asked people about contentment and discontent, and the things when it comes to being most important from a contentment perspective. As you said there, it's sleep, rest, and exercise, and also the relationship with spouse was up there. One thing that wasn't up there, which I'll include because it wasn't included in the survey, was counselling and actual expert opinion. And we've got a chap who supports us with the campaign. He's a massive campaigner of mental health and wellbeing, broadcaster called Clark Carlisle, and he had it as his number one. His number one priority was actually the talking and the counselling that he received, and he still receives, even though he's well and the best he's ever been. That counselling he still seeks. If it's not monthly, it's bi-monthly, because it's so crucial to his ongoing wellness. And what about maybe just final thoughts on business leaders who are maybe stood on the sideline looking in? What kind of advice would you give them in terms of taking action and the benefits of taking action around some mental health and wellbeing frameworks within a business?
So there's the obvious, I guess, in the first instance, is having your policies and procedures with people at the heart of them. Your compassionate leave, bereavement leave, family fit leave, all sorts of things like that. And living and breathing them. Center them around the people in your business, because like I said before, without people in your business, essentially there isn't really a business. So I guess you want a proactive and preventative approach. So building the culture, normalizing discussions around mental health, and open discussions where everyone is included. Thinking about equality, diversity, and inclusion policies, so that irrespective of background, sexuality, ethnicity, that people can be their authentic self when they come to work, if that's what they want. But again, not everybody wants to do that either. And by doing all of that, what you're hoping to do is prevent poor mental health. But it's not you can't always prevent it. You know, to try and, you know, try and be completely all encompassing, and being on that preventative approach, you know, because mental health is so transient, you can't cover everything. So reactively, it's, you know, what infrastructure is in place to support that person. And that's where, you know, like I said before, the line manager training comes in, so they're equipped with the tools to have those conversations, and they're not, you know, they're not expected to be mental health experts, but you could have mental health first aiders, suicide first aiders, employee assistance program, and, you know, some companies may also offer, you know, healthcare provisions such as you know, Bupa and things like that. But there's also, I guess, an element of flexibility with things, you know, working hours, you know, reasonable adjustments to work tasks when someone is really struggling with their mental health. So I think, you know, like I said, there isn't a one size approach, but it's I guess having a flexible approach to it when things do come, if you've not put a preventative procedures in place. So, or you've been
And
able to.
And I suppose that communication with the employees and listening to their feedback and shaping the solutions around what they're saying is a crucial part of what you're saying there as well. Listen, I'm going to summarise in a couple of minutes. Just before I do, was there any question maybe I've not asked, or anything you wanted to, whether it was hints and tips that have maybe not come out, or anything else that maybe you wanted to get out today that I've not covered, or have I done an okay job with the questions and we've
No,
covered
you've
pretty
done a
much? Yeah,
fantastic job. Thank you. No, I think we've covered quite a lot. But
amazing.
no, just I'm just very grateful that you invited me to this. Yeah, and thank you.
I think, as I said, as we went through the conversation, really humbled that you shared what you've shared, and you know, just picking up on a few things around, you know, what you've said in terms of the importance of having professional conversations, but also conversations with those around you, your nearest and closest, is absolutely been something that has been incredibly helpful for yourself. I think that focus and sport and health. So finding me time, so finding time where you can actually, it's not selfish, they're looking at yourself, but just do things for yourself, away from others, and you know, prioritize that maybe with as much diligence and focus as you would maybe some of the business commitments that are in place. And I've spoken about it before, Penny, around, you know, not necessarily work-life balance we need, it's this work-life integration. So just making sure, I know you're a busy mum with three kids, so just integrating and spinning all those plays, you know, can be a challenge. And I think I've never been great at getting the priority from a family over business historically, but I'm better at it now. But I had to go through probably an experience and a journey to actually get the point where I've got to now. And I think there's lots of yeah, bits of wisdom I could share with others, you know, younger than myself, as they move forward. But I just think having that me time, making sure physical health, sleep, rest, that seem like normal, logical givens, but they're not when people are struggling. I love everything about the, you know, that fun kind of culture, those, you know, the acknowledgements, the recognitions, the awards, achievement, however small, is, you know, is worth just that personal touch. And look, as I say, I'm really grateful that you agreed to be part of the conversation. I wish you and Ying, you know, lots of success with Habito as you progress and go into the next chapter. And yeah, look, you know, thank you very much for being part of the series.
No, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you. And, you know, just hope this conversation just helps someone else ultimately.
All right, many thanks, Penny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.